Let's be honest here. We all love cinematic lens flares. Maybe not as much as J.J. Abrams, but they're pretty freaking awesome. One thing that I'm sure all of us have in common is that we don't have the budget of a J.J. Abrams movie, right? Well, I want to show you a trick where you can fake cinematic lens flares on your iPhone or any smartphone. You're gonna think I'm so stupid, because this really, oh my gosh, this really is so stupid. But we're already filming the video, so we'll just go ahead with it. Look, all you do is you smudge the lens. I'm serious. You just take your finger and you smudge the lens, just like that. Now it does take some trial and error, so be patient with it. But I think the idea somehow is that whatever residue is left on the lens, it ends up stretching out the light and giving you those cool lens flares. Like, if you don't believe me, I'm gonna test it out. I'm gonna show you. Watch. Clean. Smudged. Now, like I said, it might take a couple of passes with your finger to get it just right, and you want to go in like a downward motion over the lens, but it actually works really, really well. I wanted to really thoroughly test this out, so I drove to a place that has a lot more lights and might actually look a little bit better with the whole smudged iPhone. That said, you know, all of this is shot on my smudged iPhone 8. You might be wondering if this works with something like, say, a GoPro, right? Or maybe even your bigger DSLR camera. From my testing, I would say no. See, with GoPros at least, they have this glass protective covering over it, and it really just further accentuates that haze. It really just seems more like a smudged lens than it does possibly like a kind of cool anamorphic lens, right? The same goes for my DSLR lenses. I also don't really feel like smudging my expensive glass. You could try it out. I tried it out, it didn't really work for me. Again, this whole process has not been very scientific. I just kind of smudged my camera one day on my phone and it turned out looking super cool. So now I'm making a video about it. Now what about that haze or that smudge? Because you might have noticed it in some of the other footage. Like there's maybe a bit of a film over it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let me explain. You see, there is it's sort of a preconceived notion, especially in the beginner filmmaking or beginner YouTubing community, that clear is always better. And that is simply just not always the case. Remember that this glass right here, that's your lens, right? Well, I mean, obviously your lens. It's your lens that you tell your story through. And that story doesn't need to be crystal clear in every single case. This especially goes for something like lens flares. Like somebody like J.J. Abrams, who is famous or really sort of infamous for using the lens flares like way too much. He uses them in sci-fi films mostly. Now you never see lens flares with your own eyes, but they look super cool, especially in like sci-fi or action movies. Well, you're not going for realism in those movies. Now if you're making a documentary, maybe lay off the lens flares, but that's all up to you. And that's a beautiful thing about filmmaking in general. It's part of the art. Sometimes people buy these mist filters literally to just place them over their super expensive lenses to get a cheaper feel out of those super expensive lenses. It's really counterintuitive, but it's part of the art. So no, in most cases, I really would not worry about having any sort of haze or even shooting on a cheaper camera like your iPhone or smartphone camera. I mean, this is an iPhone 8, but you're still getting kind of a cool feel out of those shots because you've got those lens flares and there's just something different about it. That said, to each their own. You might think it just looks absolutely horrible, and that is your opinion, and I can definitely see it. But hey, maybe just have fun, try playing around with it one night, just do some night videography and see if you like it. That said, if you liked this video and the content I'm putting out for us beginner or cheap filmmakers, right? As a college kid, that's kind of what I do. Consider liking the video down below. I'd super duper appreciate it, and it helps support me in this hobby or profession that it's become to be. That's kind of terrifying to think about. Last but not least, do not forget that you're an amazing human being. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.